And welcome to a new episode of The Simpsons Did It. I'm your host, Steven Skolansky.
And I'm your spooky co-host, Robert Skolansky.
And this week, spooky Robert Skolansky or Robert Spooky Skolansky.
Ah, yes.
The names,
yes,
the spooky,
yes.
the horror names showing up. So this week we have brought back a very special guest from our last Treehouse of Horror episode, Andy McElfresh.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me
Andy
back.
Andy Monster McElfresh?
Ooh, we could do
say like McKillfresh. It's more in the thing.
Oh, McKillfresh. Oh, I
Andy
like that.
McElfresh.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that gets in the credits.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we kind of learned last Treehouse of Horror that during the credits there were none of the spooky names like Matt Bat Groening or Al Gorgine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of cool to
Which was an Al Gore joke as well. It didn't double.
Yeah.
yeah. That's probably why they went with it. I don't think it was actually this one. I think I have seen that one before in a couple Treehouse of Horrors.
Yeah. You know, they stopped it after like 6 because they were like, what a pain in the ass. Because doing credits, you have to you have to go to the guilds and say, okay, the writers on this, we're going to give them a new name for this, but it's the same writer and all this. And you have to go through a mountain of paperwork. Even if it's the same, nickname the next year. So they just were like, you know what, screw this. And the fans wrote in and they're like, what are you doing? And so because of the delay in getting film back from Korea, it was 2 years later that they started again. I think it was around season 6 or 7.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm guessing on IMDb, they can't put the, I guess, fake name credit. Or is there an entirely whole IMDb page for all the fake name credits?
I don't know. I mean, IMDb, I write to IMDb every 5 or 6 months, and I'm like, hey, you still haven't put most of my credits on. And they're like, here's the form to fill out. And you open it, and it's like a 26-page long craziness, and you do it, and they're like, a little red flag comes up and says, I'm sorry, but we don't have confirmation on that. I'm like, I was there.
What?
It's like I wrote the pilot for that new show, History of Swear Words.
Okay.
And I got a consulting producer credit because the writers that came in from, they switched from when I started, it was Not Guild, and then they switched to the guys that Funny or Die.
Oh, cool.
And they just won't give me the credit. They just will not. It's you can watch the show, and there it is right at the end, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. On this show, we will give you all the credit.
All of it. 100%.
No, that's super great. Thank you.
All right, so this year's Treehouse of Horror, actually, I'm assuming it wasn't luck. I'm assuming they planned it, but it actually aired on Halloween in 1991.
Yeah, cool.
So it's always good.
Which was a Thursday.
Yeah, so it actually lined up really nicely. So just like last season, we get Marge coming out on the stage, and she has her little talk to the fans, her speech.
Right, that's from the original Frankenstein film. The producer of the movie came out on a little stage like that and said, basically, we're going to scare the pants off you. Please don't be too upset. I warn you now.
Yeah. Yep. And Marge
really
was like... Yeah.
It's like, when The Exorcist came out in the 70s, 65 years before you guys were born, that was the whole marketing, is they're like, you buy a ticket and they give you a barf bag.
Oh my God.
And they're like, people are dying watching this movie. It's so scary. And it just put more people in the seats. They couldn't sell enough tickets. So
Interesting.
So Marge was like, hello, everyone. Before last year's Halloween show, I warned you not to let your children watch. But you did anyway. Well, this year's episode is even worse. It's scarier and more violent than I think. Oh, wait. Scarier than I think. They snuck in some bad language too. So please, tuck in your children and, well, if you didn't listen to me last time, you're not going to listen to me now. Enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
it's a better episode too.
Oh,
yeah.
I know that you guys loved the Edgar Allan Poe section of the last one.
Yes.
So I didn't want to burst your bubble then because there was a wave of enthusiasm I could feel that was crossing the country from the Central Standard Time to the Pacific Time.
Yep.
But that was not my favorite. And this one is a solid 3 out of 3, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Like I think just actually rewatching this, I kind of fell in love with Treehouse of Horror. And it's weird to think that if you don't know what season it really comes from, you still know it's part of the earlier, beginning 10 seasons, but you don't necessarily have that feel like, oh, season 5 was great in The Simpsons, season 6 was great, this must have come from one of those seasons. Just watching it straight out, you kind of think, oh my god, they finally hit a home run, really, really early on.
Yeah, I think it's because, they didn't really quite know exactly what the show could be so far. And with this, it could be anything. And so they got to really spread their wings, and it's so funny. And there's jokes in it that people, like, in my group still use all the time. Like, damn it, Smithers, this is brain surgery, not rocket science.
Rocket science,
like, they're just classic all-timers in this show. So,
yep.
I'm very excited that you asked me to help you guys with this one. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah, and so this year the title card actually still says The Simpson Halloween Special number 2. Not Treehouse of Horror. And we are kind of talking off mic about why, one, they decided to change it to Treehouse of Horror, and 2, can the first Treehouse of Horror be 3 versus 1, because technically these are Simpsons specials, not Treehouse of Horrors.
Well, I'll let you settle that between the two of you.
Yeah.
As time has passed, and if I had a time machine, I probably wouldn't go back and do this and fix any of this stuff. It might be stuff more like, Kill Hitler, stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so just like last year, we got some tombstones inside the cemetery as we kind of get into the Simpsons house. First up, Bambi's mom.
Hilarious that you would make a joke about one of the saddest moments in animated history.
I don't know. I think Mufasa's death might trump Bambi's mom. I mean, I know Bambi's mom was earlier in life, but I don't know.
I don't think anything trumps Bambi's mom's death.
I know. What do you want? I mean, I would love to jump in on this, but you would be crushed. You cannot win this argument.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry to just pull a trump card on you.
And then the next one, we got Jim Morrison. And then obviously it has a lot of graffiti written all over it.
Well, have you seen his grave in France, in Paris?
I have not.
It looks just like that.
Interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. People graffitied it on the first day his headstone was put up. Somebody wrote, "My only friend," graffitied it at the foot of his tomb there, which is from his song "This Is the End."
Yep.
And so it's just graffitied all over the place. There's like a sculpture of him on it. It's pretty crazy. It's worth seeing. It's like a tourist attraction now.
Cool. And then we got some hippies sitting around in front of it because why
Jim
not?
Morrison.
And then
by the way, I apologize. The trash truck is now going the other direction on my street.
right.
Welcome to COVID.
Yep.
This is how things sound.
Yeah.
We all work from home.
Yep.
All right. Yep. Continue.
And then we got Cajun cooking.
Yes, and I was a food writer in the 80s and early 90s, and was so glad when Cajun cooking finally went away.
Are you not a spicy food guy, or?
I am. I just don't feel like that. I mean, I love Cajun cooking, but I don't feel like it's something that you need to eat all the time, and there needs to be, and in New York you would have a fancy place where it would be $18 entrees and all this stuff, and you're like, I get it. I'm moving on, and I'm no longer going to eat Thai noodles either.
Yeah. And then next up, Walt Disney.
Which I find hilarious now with the fact that Simpsons are owned by Disney,
and they made sure that they put ice on it because the rumor was then that his head was frozen.
Yeah, and they also did it in the Disney script too.
His signature. He had his penman signature with Walt. They did it with the W that he always used.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Lose Weight Now. Ask me how.
Herbalife. You guys are too young to know Herbalife, aren't you?
Oh, I know Herbalife. I've heard of it.
It's an interesting business model. They run it like a cult, but it's not a cult. But they have all the tenets of, the philosophy of the business and all that stuff. And that was a big
Isn't it?
thing.
Well, I can't call it a pyramid scheme, but it's what is the other term for it? I know it's MSM is the acronym for it. Multi-level media or whatever.
More sweet money.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's. I mean, that sort of was a disappointing moment post college when you would like a friend would be like,
Oh,
hey, you want to get together? I haven't seen you in New York today. And, you're like, great. And then he's got an Herbalife button on when you meet him at the. Go, here we go. All right, let's.
I actually had a high
it.
school friend do that to me. Not with Herbalife, but I actually had a friend do that to me. He's like, "Oh, do you want to join this?" No.
Nope.
I'm like, I would rather never use soap again than get a subscription to having soap. Subscription to soap.
So.
All right, so then...
all right, we just lost the Herbalife people.
Perfect.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
And then we see Charlie Brown children, like we see
the whole
Pigpen
Peanuts
and
gang,
all the Peanuts gang
Yep.
running in all their Simpsons or all their costumes, run in front of the house, and I thought that was
a
pretty
great
cool.
gag.
I love that.
And then, as we mentioned earlier, we get all the Simpson scary name rolling in the credits, and we enter with Homer is watching TV, eating candy, and Brockman reminds everyone that the presidential primaries are a few months away.
What's great about that is he does a local news joke. Like the local news jokes that he does are terrible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if you want
absolutely.
to end on a real scare, here's a terrible joke. And so it doesn't bother me that Homer is irrationally angry at the television a lot, and I love that beat. Doesn't bother me here.
Yeah, he's like, if you don't like it, go to Russia.
Yeah. If you don't like democracy, go to Russia. Yeah.
I just think it was funny that we're watching this episode now, after everyone's getting warned about the presidential election. So I just think it's funny that it just so happened that we watched this.
Well, that's why they call it timeless.
Yep.
And
so then doorbell rings and Jimbo and Kearney are threatening Homer to give him the Halloween candy by saying that they'll egg his house. And if he doesn't,
they do a quote. They say, we'll egg your house back to the Stone Age. Which was, it became an expression, but that was Curtis LeMay, who was, during World War II, he was responsible for the campaign that burned 2/3 of Japanese cities. Okay. And he wanted to do a carpet bombing campaign in Vietnam and bomb them back to the Stone Age. And so if you watch Dr. Strangelove, there is Buck Turgidson is the general that is the Curtis LeMay takeoff. And it's just a funny reference because they do reference that movie a lot on The Simpsons.
Okay. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and then the bullies, decide to egg the house anyways because bullies will be
and they
bullies.
smashed the pumpkin. And they smashed the pumpkin that was in front of the house as well.
Yep.
Yes, but it was not a reference to Smashing Pumpkins, which we're not yet.
No.
I think we got a few more seasons for Smashing Pumpkins to be on The Simpsons.
I believe so, yes. So we enter the house, and Marge is with the kids. They're done with their Halloween shopping, and Marge's hair is in reference to the hair of the Bride of Frankenstein, which I thought was really neat.
Played by
Bart
Elsa Lanchester.
Yep. Bart is an executioner.
Mm-hmm.
Maggie is a witch. I mean, she's wearing a witch mask, but same difference. And Lisa
with a pacifier though, so it's cute.
Yeah, with a pacifier. Yeah. And Lisa is a totem pole that represents the natives of the Pacific Northwest, because Lisa, she's just got to be a smart kid.
She's got to give and it's and of course they had to do that so that she had to explain it so it wasn't cultural appropriation.
Yes.
But what's funny is she's neither the low man or the high man on the totem pole, which a lot of people confuse. In the tribes of the Pacific Northwest, being the low man is the honor position, but we say low man on the totem pole because I don't know why.
Because you're like at the bottom of
it's like you're the bottom
hierarchy.
of the rung, you're the pariah, the lowest in the order, but
and she also has
a person that supports everyone.
Yep, and
I
she
do
also
like the fact.
Well, she had to wear a costume she could also be tipped over into.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Bart pushes her over.
Yep.
And
she hits her head or she hits the thing on the way in, which I'd love to say was a reference to the stormtrooper in the prison scene. But I don't think it is.
I don't. Probably it could be, but probably not. And Homer is proud of all the candy that the kids brought back because Homer and candy. And so, they're about to eat it. Marge tells them, hey, you can have one piece tonight and you will save the rest for tomorrow. And we turn back and the kids and Homer are already digging into the candy. And I think we used to do that as kids. We'd get like a big haul of candy and we'd eat like a handful of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
when we got back from trick or treating.
Although I do like savoring it though, even though we got a giant
Yes.
pillowcase full, eating, a few pieces here and there just so you can spread it out over the next, till Christmas candy comes out.
Well,
yeah, we would always count ours. We'd pour it. You take the bag, you put it
Interesting.
out on your bed with the bedspread still on, and you categorize it and you count them. And in my house, that was because my mother would eat the candy if we did not count it and keep an accurate tally. Yeah.
I guess I alphabetize my movies, but I think categorizing my candy goes a little bit too far.
I never sorted my candy.
I was a nerd from way back.
I never sorted the candy, but I mean, I think I kind of did, like from like the chocolate from like this, like the other random candy. I don't think we had anybody in the neighborhood who gave us like the big candy bars. I think it was always like the mini stuff.
Yeah.
The fun size. See, grew up when the fun size has not been invented, and what a way to misuse the word fun. Like, fuck you and the fun. Fun is like having a king size baby Ruth that your jaw hurts by the time you're halfway through it.
Right? Yeah.
I guess I didn't even think about that. Yeah, fun size is more of a what did it come in 80s 90s probably when the fun size came out.
I'm guessing that M&M Mars company, that's what they think of as fun. Like, wouldn't it be fun to only have one tiny bite of candy? Jerks.
Yeah.
Yep.
When I was a kid, though, you show up trick or treat, and then your neighbors are like, "Who are you?" They didn't even bother with me because my dad would always have to, whatever the mask was, he'd have to cut holes in it so I could get my glasses on over it.
Oh,
and everyone's like, "Oh, don't you look cute in your glasses, Andy?" And I'm like, "Oh, they know."
I think my favorite Halloween costume was the Ninja Turtle ear.
Oh yeah,
as a Ninja Turtle.
Oh, that was way after my time. I was Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Oh, so you just wore a bed sheet, or
no? You get the costumes. We used to get the little costumes. What a weird character. It's like this dead kid is haunting people,
but he's friendly.
He attracts really mean ghosts to come and scare people, and at the end they're like the scaredy ghosts. It's so weird. Like, what did he die of?
Yeah,
Didn't he get hit by a car?
Maybe he was the one kid that actually really got like razor blades in his apple.
Yeah, we should have had you on last episode when we learned that Casper was Richie Rich's ghost.
Oh, is that who it is?
Yeah, it was the comic book one where Lisa and Bart were going to Comic-Con. And Lisa got a bunch. Lisa's favorite comics are Richie Rich and Casper. And you hold up the two comic books next to each other, and Casper's ghost looks exactly like Richie Rich.
So Richie Rich was killed in a bungled kidnapping.
Maybe.
He was so wealthy.
Yeah, I thought
it makes sense. It's a good theory. And speaking of the razor blades in candy,
Apple.
Apparently, this is the story I heard. Apparently, that started because there was a father who tried to poison his kids his kid.
It's like the Tylenol. Tainted Tylenol. It was because this woman killed her husband with tainted Tylenol and put like 30 bottles in different stores in her town so that it would seem like somebody else had done it.
Crazy.
But Marge, her wives' tale is if you eat too much candy, you'll get a nightmare. And I've eaten a ton of candy.
I don't know.
I've never got a nightmare from eating too much candy.
Well, if you eat sugar before bedtime, you don't have as much deep sleep. You have more REM sleep. And so you get a lot of more dream activity. And so that's what it comes from.
All right.
Okay.
So I guess it's actually true. So I guess what Marge
I don't know if I'd say it's true, but it's more likely.
Oh, man. So you're just knee-jerk. Whatever Marge says as a mother, you're like, can't be true.
No. I mean, I like to question things and, find out the facts.
We on Education, we occasionally do a bit called Lies My Mother Told Me.
Okay.
And that was going to be one of the lies, and it turns out it's true.
Oh. Okay,
So, yeah.
It is true. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Relax on Marge.
All right, Marge. They should have listened.
Yeah. So Bart. So then I love this bit where she's like, "Oh, you'll have bad dreams," and Bart jokes, "Oh yeah, everybody's gonna have a bad nightmare." And Lisa says, "Yeah, 3 bad nightmares, and Homer's like, yeah, I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah.
And then we get the thunder and lightning, the bump bump bum music, and I thought that was such a great bit because it's like Marge was right. If you eat too much sugar, you'll have a nightmare, and they didn't
also,
believe her.
It's also heavy-handed exposition is always these guys have to make it funny, so it's funny.
Yes.
Yep. And so we go up to Lisa's room, and she's.
Which also, before we get here though, I always love it when Lisa turns on her mom. Like she's I'm with them on this one.
Yeah, she is so flip flop in a lot of episodes. She's either the goody two shoes kid or kind of has like a Bart side to her almost.
Yeah.
But she is but she's an 8-year-old, so your mentality can be flip floppy.
Yeah.
Is she 8 or is she 9?
8.
She's 8.
Really? Bart is 10. I guess you got to left back a grade.
Well, see, the funny thing is,
one grade apart.
Yeah, so I thought Bart doesn't get held back. I thought Lisa got bumped at some point.
Oh, maybe she went forward.
She does. Yeah. So I thought Lisa was in 2nd grade and Bart was in 4th.
See, that's what I
could be
thought.
wrong.
But the funny thing is in season 2, Lisa has her 8th grade birthday, and Bart
her 8th
birthday.
Yeah.
It's season 3 episode 1 is Lisa's 8th birthday, and Bart is already 10.
Yes.
So I think it's kind of funny that they give the Simpsons characters birthdays,
but they don't actually
because they don't actually age.
Yeah.
That's always a conceit of the sitcom.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we get Lisa in her bed tossing and turning, and we get her first dream, and she wakes up in her dream in Marrakesh, Morocco, which is kind of awesome because my wife always wanted to go to Morocco, and so
it's more rockin'.
It is.
No joke too small.
Yeah. And so the first shot we see is the monkey's paw, which I thought was kind of cool, kind of like Homer's gonna end up here sort of thing. And we see Homer and the family sitting in the market square. And the first thing I noticed was Homer's Fez still has the price tag on it.
Yes, like what's her name? Minnie Pearl. Oh, you know what else is about his Fez? Matt Groening's first, comic strip was he started in Chicago was Life in Hell.
Yeah,
and two of the characters were Akbar and Jeff, and they wore fezzes, and that's what their tassel looked like.
Oh, really?
Okay.
And then we get a shot of Lisa, and her shirt says, "I kissed the Balam aloud," and I guess
it's not a real thing. I believe it is a reference to the Blarney Stone in Ireland, because I actually tried to search for it.
I kissed the Blarney Stone, but I didn't. I mean, I thought it was. There's a sacred city gate in Fez, which is also in Morocco, and it's called something like the Bab Boujalud or Baba Boujalud.
Oh, okay.
And so I think it was a joke about I kissed the Blarney Stone, but instead it was something there.
Something, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then I like how Homer confuses Morocco with Monaco.
Yeah. Not the bride.
That's Homer.
Yeah, he's like, what a dump. Why would Princess Grace live in a place like this?
And what a dump line I think I just glossed over, because combine that with the fake Arabic that the guy says, and the making fun of the fakir in the marketplace and all that stuff is a little insensitive.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now they're kind of wandering through the market, and he sees some guy, doing yoga stuff on the mat, and Bart's like, I could do that, but I don't wanna.
Yeah. That's the fakir. They call those guys, they're ascetics. There's Hindu and Muslim ascetics who are called fakirs, and they perform all of those sort of self-sacrifice, like the bed of nails, guy that lies on bed of nails, stuff like that. And it's where we get the word faker, because people wouldn't believe that they were just doing magic tricks, but they would do a lot of those tricks for reals.
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of the contortionists even now, and they can bend and move all sorts of ways.
Yeah, if I tried to bend in any of those ways, I'd probably break myself.
Yes. We could start Cirque du Soleil, where we just don't really bend that much. Just get up and make a noise, like, oh.
Yeah.
And so Homer heads over to the haggard merchant table, and the merchant tells Homer that the paw has power to grant him wishes. And Homer's like, "Oh yeah? How much? Sir, I must strongly advise you, do not purchase this. Behind every wish lurks a grave misfortune. I myself was once the president of Algeria."
Prime Minister.
I don't want to hear your life story.
Yeah, he's like, "Come on, pal, I don't want to hear your life story. Paw me." Now, so I was wondering, so is this... Okay, so maybe you know, Andy. So my first introduction to like the wishing paw or wishing is from the TV show Are You Afraid of the Dark? Just because I grew up in the 90s, and it was kind of like a haggard, like Raven's Claw almost, and you made wishes and the fingertips went down. Is that more something from an earlier generation?
Yes, definitely. If anything by R.L. Stein is going to be referenced as something else. The guy is as original as, I don't know.
I guess that was just my first.
No, I know. And
it,
that's where you usually get stuff. But I mean, Ray Bradbury did a very years ago did a monkey paw style story, which is referenced in Rick and Morty when the devil moves in and starts a curiosity shop.
Oh yeah,
and that's a Ray Bradbury story, the old curiosity shop, where everything is cursed in some way.
Yep.
And that's what the Friday the 13th series is based on. Is that idea that they have a shop where everything in it is cursed and they have to return them or have the curses removed. But this story is the monkey's paw became like a monkey's paw became that idea of the genie's wish where it always counts against you. It was really a story by W.W. Jacob, who was he wrote like light opera and horror stories. And I don't know which would terrify me more, having to go to a light opera or reading a terror story. But that's what it's from, and so it's become. And in his story, it's an Indian or a Muslim fakir who is the person who imparts the monkey's paw and the curse to the guy from the London guy.
Gotcha. I did read a story that with the monkey's paw, the writers actually wanted to when they wished for stuff, the fingers go down, and they wanted the last finger on the monkey paw up to be the middle finger, but they're like, no, we can't do that because Fox will never let us air it. So I thought that was kind of a fun story.
You have to self-edit.
Yeah.
And when it comes to something where you've got a third of a whole episode with a prop in it, there's just no way you could get that out of there in time to air it. So
Yep. Yeah. And so after Homer purchases it, he turns around and Marge asks where he bought the monkey's paw, and he turns around and points, and it's just like one of the tornado things, like it was just a mysterious shop and it disappeared. And then he's like, "Oh wait, it's over there."
You'll be sorry. And also there is an animation mistake. So, as they turn to the shop and the shopkeeper is like, "You'll be sorry," they actually didn't animate his lips to move. And the producers actually caught it when the episode aired, and they're like, "Whoops!" Like I'm surprised that kind of got by them. I figured they'd have.
I think they probably did ADR, which is additional dialogue recording. They probably punched up because they layer and layer and layer these things, and I'm sure they just never put that lip flap in the instructions for the animator. Because the board artists in the U.S., like when I worked at Klasky doing Rocket Power, there's board artists here and they do the action, and then you do what's called lip assignment or lip flap, and that is just a chart, and there's a dude that comes in and does it to the radio play for every single shot. Oh my God. And it takes him like a day, and then he's out for that week, and he comes back in for the next episode that you've done.
Interesting.
And so I'm sure that's part of the pipeline that is such a weird last thing you do, so that you can't blame them for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
look at me coming to the defense of the producers of the Simpsons.
Oh, yeah.
Those poor guys, they only have $600 million between
them. and so we get a shot of the Simpsons going to the airport. Homer is being pulled aside to get patted down, and underneath Homer's shirt is "Honk if you're a Moroccan" sticker, Camel cigarettes, because they're in Morocco.
But they just say like SIGs on them. They don't have
it says SIGs.
Oh, is it just SIGs? I thought was there a picture of a camel? I don't know where I got camel.
Yeah, there's
from.
a camel on it.
That's what I thought.
It's a reference.
So,
it's a reference.
Yeah. And then a camel piggy bank and I Heart Marrakesh mug with a spout on it because it's tea. And this is a reference to the drug smuggling scene in Midnight Express.
Yeah, it's the
Never
opening of
seen
Midnight
it.
Express.
I need to probably watch it.
It's a harrowing movie, but it's about this. It's a true life story of a young kid who wanted to make some money by smuggling, and he tapes drugs to his belly, gets caught, and he has to spend all this time in this horrible Turkish prison. And what's funny is when it came out, I was working in New York right out of college, and it came out when I was in high school, but there was a messenger company called Midnight Express, and we always used to joke, if it doesn't get there by noon tomorrow, we'll stab the guy in the ass and beat him, which happens in the movie. So
I do have to ask the question though: would there possibly be a flight from Springfield to Marrakesh and then back?
Well, obviously not. No, there's no direct flight from Marrakesh even to anywhere else.
Yeah,
I think you just stop in the middle of the desert, and it's just. Of course, it's going to be. That was just.
I'm assuming there's not an airport in Morocco, or is there?
There probably is. Probably not. Right in town there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's. Africa.
Yeah.
First continent to have the most airports. Big place. No way to get there by road in a lot of cases. So and the first continent to have cell service over the entire continent.
Wow.
Interesting. That's cool.
Because you just can't string a wire that far.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so Homer has to pay a $2 fine for the souvenirs. Because,
I don't know why he was smuggling. I mean, obviously they did it for the reference for Midnight Express, but what was the point of smuggling it? Or did he just did he steal it and then stick it to him and then, you have to pay $2 for it?
I don't know what you call throwing around money, but $2 is $2, Sklansky.
You're not wrong.
Wrong? But I'm guessing the exchange rate also in Morocco, $2 probably isn't. Maybe $2 is a lot to them.
It might be.
It's not a lot to us, and I think that's how the joke works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we get back to the Simpsons house, and Bart and Lisa are arguing over, I love this, whether to wish for X-ray specs, which was Bart's wish, or peace on Earth, which was Lisa's wish. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I love Bart, but Bart's was like X-ray specs that actually work.
Well,
and
I'm guessing because he's a comic book guy and saw the X-ray specs in the back of Radioactive Man, and obviously those ones didn't work.
They don't work. Have you ever? When I was a kid, you could order them, and it's just you put them on, and they're like 3D glasses, but without the colors, and there's just a picture of a skeleton on it.
So Maggie gets her hands on the monkey's paw, and the first switch that was used was for a new pacifier. And I love that it's delivered by this luxury car, and Homer thinks Maggie wished for the car.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes out with the pacifier, and she takes it out, and she takes out her old one and puts the new one in.
Classic mislead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. The shopkeeper was like, well, everyone comes with a grave consequence. So what was a grave consequence of Maggie wishing for a new pacifier?
It's a gold.
Or wasn't there one?
I don't know. Maybe it's funny. Well, let me think. Maybe it's that they lost a wish, and so at the end they couldn't make things right.
That makes sense. Yeah,
maybe. I mean, she's a baby. What could possibly be bad in her life? She poops in her diaper.
Right?
Maybe that was it. You were just like, you were doomed to poop in your diaper for all time.
Yeah. So then Bart's like, screw this, and he wishes for the Simpsons to be rich and famous because, who wouldn't want to be? Well, I like the rich part, but not the famous part. Like, you can just give me the money and keep the fame, because I don't want to know. I don't want people to know who I am if I have a lot of money.
That wouldn't tee up the joke that
actual
reviews were read out loud in the restaurant as they walked through it.
Yes.
And then Marge comes out and she's like, "Look, everyone, my purse exploded."
That is like one of my favorite Marge lines.
Well, money's just coming out of everywhere for him.
Yeah. Out of her hair. Out of her hair. That was. Fantastic.
I feel like that wish in maybe in today's age, if you're like, I want to be rich and famous, money just won't explode. I think your bank account would just get bigger.
Well, no, that's the idea. Is it's a stupid person's idea of what getting rich is. Now
That's
we have
true.
Donald Trump for that, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
sorry to get a little political on there.
Oh, that's okay. We actually tried not to a few episodes ago, and we did anyway, so it happens.
Because
Right.
So then we see the Simpsons Go Calypso on CD
And
and
8-track.
Right.
Man smart,
Singing
woman
the
is
classic-
smarter.
The classic Harry Belafonte, man smart, woman smarter.
It's smarter.
Yeah. I just like how it was 8-track, not cassette tape.
Right.
Because I think, when did the 8-track finally die? Wasn't that late 80s? Or was 8-track still popular?
I mean, the last 8-track I listened to was probably in 1976,
Okay.
5.
So for you, it died in the 70s.
Yeah, because
Okay, I was just wondering, because I know I grew up on cassettes, and I know my parents, I think maybe our grandpa had 8-track player in his house, and I just couldn't remember when cassettes finally made that takeover where 8-track stopped.
Oh my God, our next door neighbor Clay Ridings had a El Camino with an 8-track player under the front seat.
Nice.
And we'd drive around and listen to Foghat, and eat those individual size, what do you call them, Tootsie Rolls. But back in our day, they didn't have the little things on the side that you pull to open them.
Okay.
They were like completely sealed up on the sides.
My God.
So when you're driving, you can't open it, and so he would just eat it with the paper on.
Oh.
Listen to Foghat, and there were 2 songs where the 8-track would click over to the next track in the middle of the song.
Interesting.
It was not a good technology.
Ooh.
No. So then we see Helen Lovejoy in front of a billboard with Bart on it that says "Get a mammogram, man."
Yeah.
Which is a
Oh wait, you forgot the
catchphrase.
T-shirt gag with that was the guy that's the customer that says.
Oh, that's right.
That's Sam Simon.
Oh, okay. We did skip over that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the T-shirt? It was like there was like writing on it.
It was just an expense. He was just saying it's $14.95 for this. That's ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I think doesn't at the end where after they become rich and famous in a Simpsons Overstock, there's a 2-for-1 sale.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so the billboard is a play on Bart's catchphrase, "Don't have a cowman." And I love how like Helen Lovejoy's, "What won't they do?"
Yeah.
I'm so sick of the Simpsons. And I believe it was during this they went to a restaurant and like the people in the restaurant are like, "Oh, it's the Simpsons." Like, God, they're terrible. And
At first
so
they were
over.
cute and funny. Now they're just annoying.
And so after
which
all
is supposedly an actual criticism that was in TV Guide or
Interesting.
something.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was. I mean, I'm sure it was. We're back at the Simpsons house. And Lisa has the monkey's paw, and she's like, "I wish we're for world peace." And Homer turns around, "Lisa, that's selfish."
Yeah.
Like,
Get what you
but
want.
yeah.
And then we get a newspaper headline: "World peace declared," and basically it's just a
Coca-Cola commercial parody. I'd like to teach the world to sing, but instead they sing, "Come on, people now, smile on your brother."
Yeah, and then during that, there's Simpsons residents throwing their weapons in the foundry, and like Moe's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna need you guys anymore."
Yeah. And then Krusty the Clown throws more weapons than anyone else had.
Yes. Well, I mean, he was framed for murder, so maybe he decided to have those weapons on him in case he was framed again.
Well, and we'll learn he's a huge gambler too, so he's got to protect himself from the mob. And then I like how the Pentagon is turned into the Five Corner shopping mall.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then King and Kodos are now up in their ship, so we get our first shot of King and Kodos, and they're just, foolish earthlings, and now's the time to swoop in and invade them.
So,
and then they start laughing hysterically.
And the interesting thing about them laughing was it was extended to fill time for the episode.
I've heard that. A friend of mine,
because if you notice,
one of the other writers was his wife's brother worked at The Simpsons, so we had all the Simpsons stuff out of the office. Okay. And he told me that once, that they just, when it seems like they're really dragging a joke, it's just because they need the time.
Yeah, it seems like there are a few episodes, and a couple. What was it? Man, this is a while ago. We talked to Mike Reese, the director of the season 3, episode 1, And he kind of filled us in on a few of the secrets when filming Simpsons episodes. And we kind of learned that the lack of couch gag or the lack of chalkboard gags because they had more content. And then when they extended the opening sequence is because they needed more time.
That's funny.
So
I guess you just sit down in the room and write 20 of those and you're good to go.
Yeah. And that way you're safe, just in case you want to extend an episode or, you need a little bit more filler.
Yeah.
And so King and Kodos come down and conquer Earth with slingshots and clubs.
Yeah, they do the backwards invasion. They're like, your massive intellect is no match for our puny weapons. Something like that.
And I like how Mayor Quimby's like, hey, I think we could work on we could work together on this, and he just whacks him in the head with the club. He's like, oh, ow.
I love also it's a reference to, there was a new Twilight Zone in the 80s, and John Glover, who you might remember from Smallville, who was the Lex Luthor.
Yep.
I mean, he's been in a ton of stuff. He's a huge character actor, very slender face, very distinctive look. He played an alien from outer space that comes down and threatens, that he somehow makes the threat, and the UN gets together and they declare world peace. And he's like, world peace? I'm here to recruit soldiers. Now we'll just take over your world. Like it was one of those Twilight Zones. Like what? And so I'll never forget that episode. Then the show got really bad after the first half of the first season.
Yep. And then we get a lady, and she's like, before I was just bored with their antics and their merchandise. Now I wish they were dead.
Not a joke you normally make on a primetime cartoon.
No. And so then we get, this is probably one of my favorite Treehouse of Horror lines with Homer, and this is when he wishes for a sandwich.
Yep.
And he's like, he's like, okay, I want nothing funny here. I wish for a turkey sandwich on rye bread with lettuce and mustard, and I don't want any zombie turkeys. I don't want to turn into a turkey myself, and I don't want any other weird surprises. You got it? And then he starts eating it. He's like, spicy mustard, good bread. The turkey's a little dry.
The turkey's a little dry.
Oh, that was just hilarious.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, what was he quotes from Joshua from the Bible. He's like,
does he?
Accursed thing, or what does he say? Something.
Oh, yeah.
I guess
when
I don't have
about
that
the
quote.
monkey book.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I wish I would have wrote that, followed the rest of the quote, I guess. Yeah. But I just like him talking, because I use that all the time whenever I'm making a sandwich and I want it to be like the most perfect sandwich in the world, and there's always just something wrong with it.
It's the premise of Seinfeld. He's like, he dates the most beautiful women in the world, but one of them has man hands, or one's a close talker, or one,
smells like
one is
soup.
so beautiful she can't have real boobs. So it's the same idea.
Yeah. And so Homer's about to throw away the monkey's paw because the thing is complete junk, and all the wishes are completely out too. So there is that. And then Flanders sees it, is like, oh, is that one of those monkey paw things?
Doodads or
doodads.
And then he doesn't warn him about the graves. He's like, oh yeah, here. It's like, well, first thing, I just want to get rid of these aliens.
Yeah. And then I love how Mo is chasing an alien with a board with a nail in it.
Well, that tees up the alien that Kang and Kodos' joke at the end.
Yeah, he's like, that board with the nail in it may have defeated us, but the humans won't stop there. They'll make bigger boards with bigger nails. Soon they'll make a board with a nail so big in it, it'll destroy them all.
I love that.
That's a great joke.
And now that of itself, they could have just made the monkey's paw as an entire episode, because it has 3 episodes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so good.
Yeah, but the nice thing is it didn't feel like they rushed the episode, I guess. That's kind of nice.
Well, they had time for Kang and Kodos to laugh twice for 30 seconds.
Yeah. And then I like how at the end Homer's like, oh, I wish I had a monkey's paw.
Well, and so after, Flanders gets rid of the aliens, he's cheered, and Flanders like, oh, I think the house needs to be spruced up a little bit, and he wishes for a castle.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a Ned Flanders thing.
No.
Well, it's just really to make Homer upset.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, sometimes
Yeah.
people act. I don't know if you've noticed this about The Simpsons, but sometimes people are slightly out of character if it means there's a joke there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that is the end of Lisa's nightmare.
Yeah. She wakes up and she goes to Bart's room and she's like, I had a nightmare. Can I sleep with you? Now, I don't know. Like, I remember a few nightmares when I was young, but I don't think I ever went to go into Steve's room to sleep with him. I think I'd always like crawl into bed with mom and dad or to stay in my own room.
I mean, I never went into anyone's room after I guess I can't necessarily, at least from my memory, I don't think I ever went into a parent's or sibling's room to cower.
Yeah, but
Feel
imagine
better.
okay, you're 8 years old or you're 10 years old
Yep.
or 8 years old.
Yep.
8 years old.
You have a nightmare and you're like, I had a terrible nightmare and I can't sleep alone. And I also have to tee up the next episode of what's going to happen on the show.
That's true. Yeah.
You would definitely go into your brother's room.
So Bart's like, she's like, oh, do you have any candy? Like, she gives him a candy necklace so she can sleep in the same bed. So Bart falls asleep, and his nightmare is a reference to the Twilight Zone episode It's a Good Life, which both Steve and I actually watched prior to the recording of this episode, so we could understand Bart's nightmare.
I didn't have to watch it. I lived it.
You lived in the small town that no one else knew about in Ohio, and there was a monster.
There's a guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
and so we
That's
actually
why
get
you guys had me on.
Oh,
That's
right.
why I thought you were doing this episode.
we actually get like the voiceover of the monster, and they did a pretty good job of parodying the It's a Good Life episode from the Twilight Zone.
Well, the narrator was the guy standing in front of the map, and he was
Yes.
presented for your consideration.
But it wasn't actually the same guy.
No.
One of the voice actors actually mimicked the voice, and I forget the guy's name who does the Twilight episodes, but he
forget
I forgot the
Serling's
guy's name. Yeah,
Rod
I
Serling.
did. And Rod Serling actually appreciated the voiceover. So
You're about to take a trip, not through time and space, but of the mind. He was. He wrote The Planet of the Apes. He wrote Requiem for a Heavyweight. He was a big writer.
Oh.
But the Twilight Zone itself, they used to do 42 episodes of that a year.
Oh my god!
And so he started to get desperate for stuff because he wanted to write every single one of them.
Oh my
so
god!
Suddenly there were episodes that were like, hey, this reminds me a lot of that Philip K. Dick story. Oh, this reminds me of Time and Again by, what's his name? And it turns out that he was just doing lifts, and the estates of all of these writers finally won against him were in the 90s. So like the kids of a bunch of different writers, classic sci-fi writers, got money for the stuff that he'd stolen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I like it's like Springfield, an average little town with a not-so-average monster. The people of Springfield have to make sure they think happy thoughts and say happy things, because this particular monster can read minds, and if displeased, can turn people into grotesque walking terrors. And then they cut to Jasper, who's like, happy thoughts, happy thoughts.
Happy thoughts.
Boy, I'm getting mighty sick of this.
And so Bart turns him into a dog, which is a reference to the 1978 remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I'm sure you've seen, Andy.
I watched that a month and a half ago. I love that movie. Kevin and I were talking about it on the podcast, and from time to time we'll do a not director's narration of a movie.
Okay.
We just do it as a podcast to the movie, and then you can watch the movie and hear us talk about it.
That's funny.
It was we never did that, but that movie is it's so bizarre. It's so good.
Yeah.
Young Jeff Goldblum.
Okay.
It's really good. But the Billy Mummy Twilight Zone episode you're referring to was first remade as an episode of the Twilight Zone movie.
Okay.
And do you know who played the sister of the monster?
Who?
Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson.
Oh, you know what? I think I read that. I think I read about that. She was in the movie.
You could have guessed.
I could have guessed. I should have
written
guessed
it down. That I think is an amazing
Yeah.
crossover factoid.
And speaking of the actual Twilight Zone episode, do you know who played the mother in that episode?
Gosh, I haven't seen it in so long, but it was probably a famous TV mom.
You could say that. I will give you a hint. She just recently passed away.
Oh, Cloris Leachman?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
She was the mom in that episode.
She made out with me once.
In the green room at the Jay Leno show?
It was in the Tonight Show. I had shot a bit with her, and one of the little pranks she would pull on people if they didn't know that she was going to do it is she would come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to thank you," or say something really nice just in your ear, and she'd pretend she was going to whisper in your ear, and then she would grab you and French kiss you. And she did that to me. It was quite astonishing.
She seemed like a really awesome lady.
Well, maybe. I felt a little violated at that point, and I don't mean to speak ill of the dead. Yeah. So I'll say French kiss and not really what it felt like.
Okay. So we get back to the Simpsons house, and Bart is bored of how Snowball 2 looks, so he changes it into this creature that can breathe fire. And
is that Snowball 2 or Snowball?
Yes,
Snowball 2.
Snowball 2. Snowball was killed in the original Christmas episode they did to start off the series, because Lisa's lamenting how Cat died.
Yeah, Cat died. And if anyone didn't catch the reference of Snowball 2, it's the Daffy Duck Bugs Bunny drawing of
from the one where Daffy Duck, where there's Daffy is an animated character on a drawing board.
Yep.
And there is some sort of omniscient God drawing and erasing him and turning him into crazy things.
Yep.
Oh,
and that's where this is a reference from. I don't think Daffy ever breathed fire, if I'm remembering correctly.
No, I don't think he did.
But the actual outfit of Snowball 2 is from that, which I thought was hilarious.
And then the fact that Snowball 2 breathes fire onto the curtains, and because you can't think bad thoughts, Marge goes, "Oh, good, the curtains are on fire." And so then
but what about the Krusty Flakes?
You
ever look at the Krusty Flakes?
That was actually in a prior episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bart's
is this the same one? Because they have different boxes from time to time.
I guess
I think it was the same one.
I think it was
frosted frosty Krusty Flakes. Only sugar has more sugar.
Only sugar.
Yeah, it was the same one.
It's the same box. Yeah. So at least Bart has consistency on the cereal he eats.
Yeah.
So then we cut to, the kids are going to school, and Bart tells Otto, "I'm going to drive the school bus." And Otto's like, "Nah, you're not old enough." And then he realizes who Bart is. He's like, "Oh, you're the kid that can turn people into things. All right, I'll let you drive." And so we see Otto doing the gas and the brakes, and Bart's driving, and
we're all going to die.
And then they end up at the school, and the bus is tipped over on its side because Bart crashed it. And somehow all the kids are fine, apparently. I mean,
okay, this is an episode where a child can read minds.
I know. Yes.
And it's animated.
Yes. So then we get into the classroom, and Bart has his own throne, and Sherry and Terry are feeding him and fanning him
with feathers,
And then if you guys noticed, on Mrs. Krabappel's desk, there's a dead rat and 3 apples. I don't know why there's a dead rat, but I get the apple thing. Kids like bringing apples to their teachers, right?
Yeah, that's the classic. They do. Indiana Jones gets an apple.
Yep.
Yes. So then so they had a history exam, and Krabappel goes, "Oh, well, guess what? The history of America has changed again," because, she doesn't want to fail Bart, because otherwise Bart will, change her into a creature. Mm-hmm. And so according to Bart's answers, America was discovered in 1942 by some guy. Our country is now called Boaterland. And then I love the last 3 questions were, who was our country's first president? Bart answered, eat. The Civil War began, and Bart answered, my. And the Civil War ended in shorts. So eat my shorts.
Right.
So I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was another catchphrase.
Yep. And here's another fun fact. So Bart writing "eat my shorts" uses 3 of the answer spaces on his history test, and he does the same thing in Bart's Friend Falls in Love in that episode.
What season was that?
Episode?
I think
this is
5.
the same season.
Is it the same season?
No, that's season 3. Yeah, that's second to last episode. If I
Oh, it
remember
is. Yep.
correctly.
Yep. You're right. It is the second
Slansky
to last
fight.
episode. Yeah. Oh, believe me, we've had those on these episodes.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, over the intercom, we hear Skinner start singing "Hello, My Baby" for Bart.
Yeah, why that would be a dream of Bart's to humiliate a guy who's
Skinner.
in a barbershop quartet, have him sing a barbershop quartet song. It's very
Yes.
odd.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they haven't done that episode yet, so maybe the writers weren't quite thinking ahead
Yeah.
that Skinner was going to be in a barbershop quartet. Maybe.
Perhaps.
But he wanted to make fun of him, so. And then, so
I don't know,
then.
these guys are, a lot of comedy writers are somehow tied to, you know, the Yale Whiffenpoofs or other a cappella groups in college. So
Okay.
I would, you know, I think that he's once a barbershopper, always a barbershopper. I'm a member of SPEBSQUA, the Society for the Preservation of Barbershop Quartets in the United States.
Ooh,
It's one of the few things I belong to, that and the Snyder's Pretzel Lovers Club.
Snyder's pretzels are really good, though.
They are really good.
And so this upcoming. So Mr. Krabappel comes up to Bart's throne with a phone, and I love how in a lot of the Simpsons clip shows that are upcoming, this is actually the Moe's Tavern call that they use most often. And so Moe's Tavern, hold on, I'll check. Hey, everybody, I'm a stupid moron with an ugly face and a big butt, and my butt smells, and I like to kiss my own butt. It's like either... Okay, so Bart is very clever with these prank phone calls, so apparently in his dreams, he has no thought process.
Yeah, it just is the stupidest one.
I did.
I love that they made a joke out of it because at the end of it, Moe still has the reaction like, "Hey, wait a second."
Yeah.
And then he realizes it's Bart.
You know, which is
I
funny
did
because
He never knows it's Bart.
well, yeah,
No.
he never does.
That's true.
But in a Treehouse of Horror episode where they're in a small town and the rest of the world doesn't exist to them, and there's this monster that can read your thoughts, you probably knew.
No, the rest of the world exists. That's the. I mean,
That's the
the
point.
United States gets changed to Bonerland.
Yeah.
So when he goes to the doctor, he's a member of the Bonerland Medical Association.
Yeah.
Yep.
I did read, I believe it was Al Jean did not like that prank phone call. Like everyone, all the other writers loved it, but I believe it was Al Jean who did not.
Well, it is a
He
hat
didn't
on a
hate
hat.
it.
Normally you do, you know, a joke, and then if you make a joke about the joke, then that's
Yeah.
called a hat on a hat. And I get why he wouldn't like it, because
Yeah.
some of them are funny. I mean, there's ones you can't do. The classics are like, I'm looking for a man, Mr. Hunt, first name Mike.
Mike Hunt.
But
Yeah.
you can't do that on television, but they
Nope.
do a lot of them.
I feel
I'm
like
sure he
Mike
just-
Crotch was kind of at that borderline
Yeah.
because they did
Yeah.
Mike Crotch a couple episodes ago.
Has anyone seen my crotch? And that's the joke. Putting a hat on a hat by trying to
Yeah.
Yep. And
make
so
a joke about the joke.
Yep. And so we get Bart walking back in, and Homer's watching football. But Bart wants to watch Krusty, and he's like, "But I got money on this. I got $50 if they make this field goal."
Here we go.
And Bart turns Homer into the football, and he hits the upright and misses. But I like the announcer, like, "And the ball is turning into a big fat guy."
a big bald fat
The guy thing, yeah.
And isn't he like, and when anything weird happens, doesn't he make a reference?
Yeah,
to
Oh
Is
yeah,
it
he's like,
premise?
When anything
Whenever
weird
anything
happens,
weird
we like to
happens.
thank Bart for making it happen.
yeah.
And then Bart's watching Krusty, and Homer comes back, and you see like bandages on his head, and
Yeah.
now he's thinking. And well, I guess right before that, we see Krusty on the screen being on air for 346 consecutive hours.
Which is approximately 15 days.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone
Revealing
could be on
yet
air for
another
that long.
drug habit, and the stuff on stage are things like gunpowder, and
Yeah.
super
He's like,
crazy.
maybe Sideshow Mel has one of those cannon things we could do again. Like,
Oh no, he's like, maybe he has one of those completely legal over-the-counter
oh,
stimulant drugs.
But then Homer in the background is like, "Must not think about it, just gotta do it." And then he's about to hit Bart over the head with a chair, and then points at him without even blinking, without even looking away from the TV, and turns him into the Jack in the Box, which obviously is a reference to the actual episode. Which, after watching that episode, I was so disappointed we didn't get to see the guy actually as a Jack in the Box.
you kind of did.
No, we only saw a shadow.
No, you
don't
saw
see
his
the
head.
shadow. You saw his head, but you don't see It would have been hard.
Jack in
That
the
would have been
Box.
horror.
No,
They
no.
wouldn't have been able to get that
Yeah.
on TV.
No, not back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a shadow of the guy bouncing back and forth. And I like how the guy
Yeah.
in the episode was like, it's like, wish him into the cornfield. Wish him into
Field.
the cornfield.
Yeah. Well, nobody wants to see that. That's horrifying.
Hey man, I like my Homer Jack in the Box Funko Pop. He looks so
I mean-
adorable.
It is. I mean, that is the whole thing of it. Is like, just kill them. When you
Yeah.
torture someone, just kill them. Build a
Yeah.
mummy.
So then Marge, I like how Marge yells at Bart and Bart blames Lisa. Like Lisa has this superpower.
Lisa did it. And so they take Bart to Marvin Monroe, child psychologist, and like Andy mentioned, he's a member of the Bonerland Medical Association. And he's
so-
like, you like attention, don't you, Bart? Do I ever?
Ever. And so I love Monroe is like psychoanalyzing Bart, and Homer's head is like swaying back and forth, and Marvin Monroe's like, "Oh, I thank you for agreeing with me," and Homer's like, "There's a slight draft in here."
Oh no, he's like, it's not. I'm not nodding. It's the air conditioner.
Yeah. And so afterwards, they're like, "Oh, well, why?" Marvin Monroe's like, "Well, why don't you two spend some time together?" So Homer and Bart spend some time. The scene and the music accompanying this montage is a parody of an old anti-smoking public service announcement.
I know that was from when I was growing up, and you'd watch the I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched hour. They would have a lot of public service announcements because back then the stations had to acknowledge that the airwaves were owned by the public. And so there were a lot of PSAs and a lot of.
Gotcha.
Then the news didn't make money, and it was just a different time.
Yeah.
And this was a famous ad where it's a dad and son, and they're doing all these great dad and son things together. And
Fishing,
then the dad pulls
roller
out a
coaster.
cigarette, and then the kid pulls out a candy cigarette, and they keep saying like the ad starts with, like father, like son, and they do all these fun things, and there's a few of them, and then at the end he goes, he's smoking, and the kid's faking smoking, and it says, like father, like son, think about it.
Oh my god!
Won't you? And you're like, I will think about it. I'm 9. I got swim practice in an hour, and I won't sleep tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, they go fishing. They go to a baseball game, and Homer gets hit in the head by a baseball because he, doesn't have a body. And then they do a roller coaster bit. And so we get back to the house, and Homer's tucking in Bart with his face, and they're like, "Oh, it was such a good time." And Homer's like, "Well, maybe could you give me my body back?" So Bart gives him his body back, and they hug. And Homer tells Bart that he loves, or no, Bart tells Homer that he loves him, and this wakes up Bart screaming. Because that's his nightmare, is loving his father.
It's a funny timing. Like, they are so good at timing it where you're like, wait a second. Bart's nightmare was, like, really worked out for him. And then he wakes up and screams.
Yeah.
I mean, I love my dad. I don't think that's a good... I mean, I just think it's funny because Bart's, like, the Hellboy. He's, like, the demon spawn of The Simpsons. So, loving anything, I guess, of his family. He loves Krusty.
Yeah.
And he died for Krusty.
Just so you know, it's not... The show was not meant to be an accurate reflection of the Slansky household growing up.
Yes. So Bart screams, which probably wakes up Lisa. So Bart and Lisa crawl into bed with Homer and Marge. And I love the fact that they're like, "Oh, can we sleep with you?" And Homer goes, "Are you guys potty trained?" And I would hope so. I would hope at 10 and 8. Now, yes, accidents probably do happen as children, but for the most part, I would hope
joke
so.
About the fact that Homer really has no idea how to raise children and what level of maturity his children are at.
Yeah. And so I like the fact that, the kids run into the room at 4 a.m. and Homer's like, "Man, 4 a.m. I got to be up for work in a couple of hours." At that point, I'd say screw it to stay up, I think. I don't know. Because you don't want to sleep. You don't want to oversleep your alarm clock.
You're right. And the episode would have ended at 16 minutes. Smart thinking right there.
Yeah.
Robert, don't go into Simpsons right
Clearly. So then, Homer falls asleep, and
Like that is what you underlined as made the show unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's like at 4:00, you might as well just stay up. This show's ridiculous.
Oh man. I mean, I'm used to waking up at like 9:00 to go to work
And
at
then
like noon.
he defends it. It's unbelievable.
Oh, you should have been here.
I'm dying on this hill. I'm dying on. No,
You should have been here a couple episodes when he was trying to defend or go against the Simpsons and how they run a courtroom.
Oh yeah.
And
Listen,
I kept telling
I
him,
like
yeah.
so.
You can die on a hill, just like you picked like a speed bump to die on.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Okay, all right. I'm not going to win this argument. Obviously, it's a dumb argument.
Because you're 100% wrong.
You're right.
why
I'm
it's not
agreeing
even
with
an
you. I'm
argument.
wrong. You're right. I'm agreeing with you. So Homer falls asleep, and his nightmare is based off of Frankenstein.
Yes.
So the first thing we see is Burns and Smithers, and they're looking at their employees, and Homer's sleeping, and they have a camera in their showers, and the guys in the showers are
They're like snapping towels. It's like really a little weird that's what the. But it is funny to see, like, every time I see that Homer is literally at the controls of the entire place.
Yes.
And he's always asleep.
Yeah, and our last episode, or 2 episodes ago, was Homer Defined, where he didn't know how to save a nuclear meltdown.
Yes.
So it was an entire episode wrapped around.
And he got lucky.
Yeah, and got lucky by eeny, meeny, mowing the button.
There, Smithers suggests firing an employee at random to keep the fear and God in the workers. So Burns kind of does the eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing, doesn't he? And he picks Homer.
And so I don't know if that was necessarily a reference to 2 episodes ago when Homer eeny, meeny, miny, mowed the button to save the plant. And Burns was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and Homer's the one to get fired. And I don't know if that had any thought, because I'm guessing they write these episodes pretty close together.
If you want comments, if you want people to participate, comment, and then have other people come and get angry with you so that you get a lot of listeners.
Yes.
Just claim it. Just claim that.
Okay.
Just so you know for a fact.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll just take everything as fact and we'll correct it later.
Except that like Homer normally would have stayed up until 6.
Yes.
But in this case, all right.
He was woken up at 4:00, so he's still tired. But
that's probably
this
why
is
he's
the dream.
sleeping. Not that he sleeps in every episode.
Yeah. And so Smithers gets over to the loudspeaker to fire Homer. And obviously it's a cartoon, and you'd probably bring the guy into the office and fire him. But it's Homer, so they probably want to make an example of him. And because, they want to put the fear in God in their workers. So he gets over the loudspeaker, and he can't wake up Homer until like the 3rd try to fire him.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, how do you know that I'm sleeping? Because they're watching. And I do like to point out that this episode, unlike a few episodes ago, the color monitors once again are gone, and they're black and white monitors. So I don't know if you remember the Michael Jackson episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, but I'm just saying now maybe they're out of order, and maybe, just maybe, it's not a reference to the eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing.
Oh.
I'm giving some fuel to the fire.
All
for
right.
the big controversy.
Well, I want to state during the Michael Jackson episode that Burns was happy that he got color monitors so he could see Homer's pink shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And now they're black and white again. But maybe you're right. Maybe it was filmed or written out of order.
Or maybe Burns just hated the color monitors and he wanted to go back to black and white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably not a production issue and more like the character motivation behind.
Yes.
No, I think it's production.
Yeah. Well, it's also kind of like when every once in a while you go to Moe's Tavern and it's a black and white TV, or sometimes you go to Moe's Tavern and it's the color TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that is really the reason I watch the show.
Oh, it's to see which color.
Yeah, which color are there? Oh, there it is, black and white again. You know what that means? It means nothing.
No,
nothing. So Smithers and Burns go to his secret laboratory, through a hidden passage in Burns' office. And I like Burns. He's like, Smithers, I've always despised the laziness of the common worker. Then I realized his spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak. So I replaced the flesh, which is weak, with steel, which is strong. Behold, the greatest breakthrough in labor relations since the Cat O' Tales.
Which, for our listeners out there...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, the Cat O' Tales is a flail or a whip.
It's usually used... as
a punishment device.
It's a punishment on British ships, and they would keep it in a baize bag. And so that was always a threat that, the bosun's mate was going for the baize bag, because in it, the Cat O' Tails it's a flail. It's got a handle, and then it's got 9 leather straps on it with knots in them. And when they whip you with it, the knots will break the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which would make sense that, Burns would like this invention because he hates his workers.
Yeah.
Did you notice as they're walking through, though, their images through the Bunsen burner, the beakers and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
That is a reference to a movie, and it's a sci-fi movie, and I can't remember which one. It could be The Fly. I don't know what it is, but there's a scene where a lot of the tension, there's a lot of exposition, and the tension is created because you're seeing people distorted through their glass, and I just can't remember which it was.
Yeah, I think I was going to say, I think that reference, or just that type of reference, is made in a lot of even current movies.
Yeah.
Like science-y movies.
Yeah, it's like, there's a lot of sort of cinematic tricks that people do to raise tension. Like when a character, when the actor has to deliver a lot of stuff and can't go through a big emotional roller coaster, sometimes they'll show the light through a window as rain hits it, so it looks like there's tears going down their face. There's just tricks like that, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and so I do like how the robot looks like Homer, and I like how Burns doesn't remember Homer, so I think it's I think somewhere in the back of Burns's memory, he knows what Homer looks like, and that's why the robot was built like that. Or as Andy would say, it was to move the story along because it winds up with Homer's brain, and so the robot looking like Homer makes sense. But
or the character designers just got lazy and were like, "What do you think, Homer?" And they're like, "Sure." Meeting over.
Fair enough. But I was thinking, since Burns was the one that built him, and he doesn't know who Homer is, I thought it was kind of cool that Burns would have built a robot that looked like Homer. And
I agree with you. I'm 100%.
And so so Homer obviously lost his job, so now they're sitting around the table and they're looking through the job posts in the newspaper, which I don't think exists anymore, or maybe it does.
God, that's such an old sentence. Looking for jobs in a newspaper.
All right. I'm sorry I was sarcastic earlier. You don't have to make me feel bad that newspapers are old.
Hey, our parents still read. Our parents will
still subscribe to the newspaper
and will read the newspaper.
So this is something your parents do.
It is.
Yes.
They
still
read.
Maybe I should be doing a podcast with them. We can talk about the good old days as opposed to that newspapers don't exist anymore. I'm just kidding. I have a Kindle.
Oh. Fair enough. Yeah. That's a good place to read a newspaper. And so Bart's looking at jobs, and he's like, here's one. Fresh air, get to meet a lot of interesting people. And Homer's like, ooh, what's that? Grave digger.
Wait, but Lisa says, oh, here's a job, but it's really complicated.
Yes.
To do. And he's like, how hard can it be? Because he used to run a nuclear power plant.
But don't forget, Homer was hired because of Project Bootstrap from President Ford.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
We learned that in an earlier episode. So he was hired because he was dumb.
What's that?
I'm taking your word for it. You guys are the experts. I'm just the shenanigans hanger on.
And so we cut to the cemetery.
Do you know whose first job out of high school was gravedigger?
Whose?
Kevin Smith.
Really?
No.
Yeah. And he lost his job because his friends came and said they wanted to go to the movies, and he put in his notice after a day of grave digging.
I'm surprised he didn't fall asleep in the grave like Homer. Or at some point he might have.
Yeah. I'm just saying there's a little crossover. Just
that's
kind of trivia for you.
That's really cool. I did not know that. I've listened to every episode of Smodcast, and a lot of his other stuff, I don't think he's ever mentioned that. Aside, I mean,
Yes.
I don't.
Yes, we've talked about it on the show.
Oh, have you?
So I see where we rank.
No.
All of podcast. But education can come and go as far as I care.
Yeah.
No, we're here to do your podcast, so let's just keep going.
Fair enough. All right. So Burns and Smithers are roaming through the graves to look for someone to get their brain, and they go to the hole where Homer is, and Smithers makes a comment, "Ugh, this stench is ridiculous. Let's get him out of here," because Homer doesn't shower.
They do make Homer stinks jokes from time to time that are very funny.
Yes.
Like in one episode, they're like people working in a pork fat rendering plant.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What is that smell? And Homer's just in a car driving by.
Yeah, Homer stinks.
Yeah.
And so as they're pulling Homer along the ground, Homer's complaining, and Burns beats him up with a shovel.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that Burns can actually lift that shovel.
I know. We've seen him throw a grenade in another Treehouse of Horror.
Yeah.
Or he can't lift his thumb to give Homer a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
I do like the fact that like Smithers was creeped out and Burns is like, "Oh, are you afraid of the Booger Man?" And instead of saying Boogie Man. I did, because it's Burns. He's old, and I could see him saying that.
He uses kind of British-ish terms from time to time.
Yes.
Yep. And so they get back to the laboratory, and Burns asks for an ice cream scoop. And he's like, Smithers is like, "But sir," it's like, "this isn't rocket science." Or what is it? He's like, "Damn it, Smithers, this isn't rocket science. It's brain surgery."
Really an all-time great line of all. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
That's fantastic.
And then as Burns is slicing open Homer's head, he's actually humming "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. It's a great reference. And so Burns puts Homer's brain on his head, and he I love how like he cuts it out, puts it, "Look at me, I'm Davy Crockett." And this is actually from then head writer Jay Kogan, who created the Davy Crockett joke, and he thought it was so funny he actually mimicked the actions of Mr. Burns putting on Homer's brain in the writing room, and the producers thought it was hilarious, so they decided to add it into the episode.
So he pitched a joke and they liked it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how do you mimic something that hasn't been on the show yet? Don't you mean he mimed it or he enacted
Mimed it? Yeah, probably mimed it. But I think it's funny that, I obviously, yes, he wrote a joke. They thought it was funny and they stuck it in.
Yeah. I smell a poorly written Wikipedia page here.
You are not wrong.
Okay, you got to go back and edit. You got to get that.
Yes.
Whoever did that, you got to get that out of there.
Yeah.
And so then, they...
And that's Davy Crockett, the coonskin cap.
Yes. Davy.
Because that was the big thing, is everybody had a coonskin cap at one point.
Now, maybe Andy would know this. Are you able to physically rip out a brain and have part of the spinal cord still attached to it, or would just the brain come out?
Am I?
I don't know.
Do you know?
Do you know?
I mean, not yet.
Okay.
I've tried. I haven't been successful, but I'm sure that with, another couple dozen brains, I'll be able to get there.
So then they flip on the switch and, Burns says, "It's alive," like in Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's that.
I like how he was like, "That fellow at Radio Shack said I was mad. Who's mad now?"
No.
Now,
for those of you...
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, Radio Shack is an electronics company that is no longer around.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's necessarily the joke, but I feel like you could buy everything at Radio Shack. I think that was kind of the thing in the 90s.
The third club that I was a member of until Radio Shack went out of business was the Battery of the Month Club. And literally, you could take your Battery of the Month Club card out there, and they give you a battery of your choice. And cool. I was a big Radio Shack nerd. I did all of the projects. I love Radio Shack. Yeah, I actually used to work for Radio Shack for. I can hear you guys crumpling up a whole page of Radio Shack jokes that we're going to make. Passion for Radio Shack.
Well, I used to work for them, and now I don't. So.
A Tandy company. That's before your time.
Yes.
They used to all say that because Tandycraft was the company that started Radio Shack. And Tandycraft was a leathercraft company. So in the 40s and 50s, it was a big hobby that people did. So it was like a hobby shop.
Okay.
And then they...
Interesting.
Yeah, then they were like, the big hobby is going to be electronics. Electronics, I tells you.
Yeah. So then, the robot wakes up and he, Burns is trying to like talk to him, and the robot locates donuts in that Homer left at his desk. And I love how the robot just like walks and just like plows through the walls to get to the donuts and just takes all the donuts and just dumps them into his face. I don't think that's, obviously because he took Homer's brain, and they, clearly that's what was going to happen when you took Homer's brain. And so we cut back to the Simpsons house, and Marge is worried that Homer is missing, and she says, the kids are watching the Johnny Carson show. Mm-hmm. And Marge goes, oh, he's been gone for 2 days. And the kids just kind of look up and go, okay. And they go back to wating Carson.
Yeah, he appears on the television
at 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And I like how he appears, with his Karnak the Great get up, and he has an envelope on his head and says, Geraldo Rivera, Madonna, and a diseased yak.
Yeah. And they don't do the joke, though. Like the way that bit worked, it was a really great bit. Like he would hold an envelope up to his forehead and then say a phrase and then do the setup to why that was the punchline. So his classic one was he held one up to his forehead and said, sis, boom, ba. And then he opens the envelope and reads, the noise a sheep makes right before it explodes. And I know, what I'm really trying to do here is to lean way into references that nobody listening to this podcast is ever going to get while we talk about The Simpsons. Continue.
But that's kind of the fun part about them. Like the first 4 seasons of The Simpsons, it's all references that I think the older generation
TV heads like me, like all these guys are writing this my age and went through all the same stuff. So it was like your brain was exploding every time you watched. And now for me, it's like watching a trivia contest. Like you understanding where all the references come from is like getting in questions right at a pub quiz.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that because
I could hear the eye roll as you guys looked at each other.
No, actually, so in when Lisa and the family go to Washington D.C. for essay contest back in like episode 3, she mentions to her senator that there's only 2 female senators, and I had actually done the research to find out who they were. And I, like a couple days after I watched that episode, I was visiting my parents, and we were watching Jeopardy. And one of those women senators' names was actually an answer to Jeopardy. So I kind of understand.
Did you get it right? Did you impress your
parents? I guessed wrong. I guessed the other senator.
You finally had a chance to make your parents proud of you.
Oh, I do that almost whenever we're watching Jeopardy and I know an answer and I've gotten that from The Simpsons or just watching TV in general. They're like, how'd you know that? Like, I watch TV.
From reading the entire encyclopedia, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I think I'd say 95% of my Jeopardy knowledge probably comes from television.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, if you've made one person proud, it's me.
Well, the next time that rocket power answer comes from Jeopardy, I'll know I got it from Andy.
Okay, thanks. There's some other things on the resume, but we'll go with that.
Oh, okay. Sorry, the only reason I have rocket power on my mind is one of the other podcasts I listen to. They do a nostalgia one, and when they heard that we were going to have you on an episode or a couple episodes, they got kind of jealous because they really loved rocket power. So,
yeah. I mean, you know how hard it is to book me on these podcasts.
I know.
Yeah.
So
well,
I
you're
see
so
that jealousy,
busy.
The green-eyed monster rearing its ugly head.
Anyways, to get back on topic, so Burns is upset because the robot's acting just like Homer, and so he wants to take the Homer's brain out of the robot and just like flush it down the toilet.
Because Homer doesn't really need a brain, but Smithers, kind of said, hey, you know what? I think his family would like him back.
Yes.
Smithers, the voice of conscience, the Jiminy Cricket to Mr. Burns, if you will.
Or as Burns said, you are the yin to my yang.
To my tempestuous yang.
And so Burns reattaches Homer's brain, and he didn't think it was going to work and bring him back to life, but it did. So now Burns owes Smithers a Coke.
Well, no, I like how he's like, Homer's like, ow, ow, ow.
You know what this means, sir? He's alive. I guess I owe you a Coke. Which, to be fair, I'm pretty sure once you take somebody's brain out, you can't put it back in. I mean, I'm no brain surgeon, so
Well,
it's brain surgery, not rocket science.
Yes, you're right. But in the timeless animated world of The Simpsons,
Yes,
it possibly
Yes.
it could happen.
Yeah,
And this, as you remember,
Yes.
is a dream.
It is a dream.
it is a dream. It is a dream. So anything's possible.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh, and to support
Burns-
your theory that how could Mr. Burns carry both the pickaxe and the shovel? He can't outrun the teetering.
yes.
continue.
As Andy was about to mention, so Burns calls the robot that had Homer's brain a clinking, clattering cacophony of colliginous cogs and camshafts, which is a similar line to the wizard in The Wizard of Oz to the Tin Man. He calls them you clanking, clattering collection of colliginous junk. I think I'm saying that the colliginous. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sure.
I don't know. So
You did a
another
good
wizard.
Good job there.
Another,
I have to remember positive reinforcement works a lot
Yes.
better than.
yeah. So another Wizard of Oz reference, which is kind of awesome. I like those
Mhm.
references.
Yeah. And so Bern obviously is upset and kicks the robot, and it falls on him and crushes him because it's a heavy robot. And
Yeah.
Bern,
And
It's
Burns-
also. Go ahead.
so Bern's kicking him obviously can make a giant robot fall over. All the
But
weight
but
of
he
his
can-
foot.
He can't
Yeah.
outrun it.
Nope, can't outrun it, but he can kick it hard enough for it to fall over.
Now, this is the thing. The reason he has to get crushed by the monster is that
Yes.
it's the Frankenstein
Yep.
myth. And Frankenstein, the whole idea of the myth is that Frankenstein is the name of the doctor.
Yes.
The story is about him and how his pride that he could create life and put his thumb in the eye of God is what ends up destroying him.
Yep.
Okay.
And then Homer wakes up screaming only because.
Okay. All right. Let's move. Okay.
All right.
Listen,
Sorry.
even back then, my English major, it cost a lot. So I'm going to use it whenever I can.
That's why we have you on here.
Because I like knowing things that I don't know about.
Yes.
And so Homer goes to the. Oh wait, sorry. So Homer wakes up screaming only because Bart bit him. Because he was crushing Bart,
Mhm.
as Homer was crushing Mr. Burns,
Yes.
and Bart tried to scream, but his mouth was full of flab.
Because Homer fat, you know,
I just wonder why Bart was under the covers to begin with. Like,
because that's where you sleep under the covers.
well, no, his head would have been up by Homer's head if they were all lined up on the
It was
pillows.
just a match cut. Just
Yeah.
wanted to make it look like the last thing.
Okay.
Yep.
And then so Homer goes to the bathroom and finds Burns' head grafted to his body. And I like how Homer's convinced he's still dreaming. He's like, wait, I haven't woken up yet. This is all a dream. And then we cut to the credits, a couple panels of it. And then Burns is like, or is it?
Is it?
And then I like how we get the announcer next week on The Simpsons after the first couple of credits.
Yeah.
And Lisa's class is having an all-you-can-eat spaghetti dinner, and Burns' head says they have to meet Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands. And then Homer, he's like, I hate having two heads.
And that the end is referencing The Thing with Two Heads, which I've never seen.
Which I have seen.
Another.
It is a very low budget. It's one of those movies that is a little bit sad because one of the lead actors is Ray Milland, who was a very famous actor in his day. And in the 70s, a lot of them did Joan Crawford did horror movies like Trog and just these terrible low budget movies because they needed the work. They didn't have any money. And so it's Ray Milland sewn onto the head of Rosie Greer, who was a football player trying to break into acting.
Oh.
And so the whole thing just makes your heart sink as you watch it. And it's quite terrible, but it's very funny. And there are many shots where they did hardly anything to disguise the fact that Rosie Greer is standing there and there's a dude standing behind him leaning his head onto his shoulder, and that's it.
So they didn't even put him into like one costume, like a big
They
costume?
try. They do have it, but there's too many shots where it's that bad. And it's, this is like I guess, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Oh, I love Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah. Because that was one of the classics from MST3K.
Oh,
I don't think I've watched that. I don't think I watched that episode, but I'm going to have to find it now.
Yeah. I mean, that's Mystery Science Theater was on a long time ago when my partner and I started at Comedy Central after we did the MTV Beach House.
Yeah.
We could not hang up the phones or hang up the fax machines because the day before, the new guy running Comedy Central had canceled Mystery Science Theater. And there were so many nerdy fans that they had like auto dialers. Back when you had a modem attached to your computer, you could set it on auto dialer to just ring all the phones.
Yeah.
And somebody had published all the phone numbers, so we couldn't work.
Oh my God.
Thank God they didn't have my pager number.
Right.
So I'm dating myself in that reference.
Yes, you were.
That's okay. Everyone had pagers in the 90s.
You see, a pager is a device that
where you have to find a phone because you're out somewhere and need to make a phone call quickly.
you have to stand in line in a phone booth.
And for those of you who don't know what a phone booth is, you see, they used to have these. They used to have these landlines, but outside.
In 1981, they took all the phone booths out of Manhattan and put up just those little kiosks that just you stand up and walk up to it. And yet, everyone still call them phone booths. And then in the 90s, they made a movie called Phone Booth about a phone booth in Times Square, and everyone's like, pretty famously, there are no phone booths in Times. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day for the Simpsons phone booth parody episode.
Oh, I want when we get to Homer Visits New York, we'll see if Homer enters that phone booth.
We'll see.
Which I think he might. So that ends Treehouse of Horror number 2. So of all three of them, which one is everyone's favorite? I personally think Bart's Nightmare is probably my favorite of all three.
Yeah, I think I like the Twilight Zone Bart one the most.
All right. Well, I mean, again, to be odd man out, I guess because I'm the only one with a different last name, I'd have to go with the Monkey's Paw.
That is a good one too.
So much happens in it. There's so many funny references. I think it's so funny. But, I mean, they're all really good. And
they are all really good. How dare you make us choose just one, Steve?
I'm sorry. Well,
typical Steve. This is another thing he pulls on us right at the end of the episode.
Yeah. God.
Oh, I know. My work is so hard.
Yeah.
But no.
You're not getting what we're saying, but we'll continue.
All right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
It has. I was late.
Yeah.
I couldn't do, just to tell your listeners how brilliant I am. I couldn't do the conversion from Central Standard Time to Pacific Standard.
This is why we have Andy McElfresh on, because he knows all the references. He's super smart, but unfortunately, when it comes to time zones,
listen, I was getting my tonsils out when we had geography.
Oh, okay. At least if you lived in like Indiana, I might be able to be okay with that, because like between Eastern and Central, it's split right down the middle of the state, and you might have forgotten which side of the state you were on, or I think in Arizona, isn't it in Arizona?
Yeah, they don't observe daylight savings time in Arizona. So
so it's
correct. Confuses the hell if you have a car that's older than 12 years. Your GPS on your car gets very confused driving through as to what time it is.
Yeah, I know. I got confused going to Arizona. So, but anyway, that's here nor there. So, we'd like to thank Andy McElfresh for coming on yet another Treehouse of Horror and delivering.
Thank you very
much.
I appreciate your. I hope you don't think that my mild ribbing will exclude me from being able to do another Treehouse of Horror someday.
Oh, absolutely not. We like the bits. Like it's I don't know. It just hearing something other than me and Robert banter on is very
Yes.
refreshing. And
I'm sure our listeners like it too.
Yep.
And
Oh
for
no,
me,
like
it's not, I do education with Kevin Smith, so talking to people that are paying attention to me is a complete pleasure.
yes.
You're welcome.
And I'll tell you, the reason why I wanted you back for this one and even the future ones is you were a hit on the first one, so I like that people want to hear you because they turn.
I'm still waiting for those residuals to start pouring in.
We can give you stickers.
Yeah, we got stickers.
You have stickers?
We have stickers.
And you're telling me this after the second time I did a show with you?
Well, we didn't.
Well, we just got them.
We just got them. So, for all of you guys out there that love listening to us, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook, The Simpsons Did It Podcast, on Instagram, The Simpsons Did It Pod, on Twitter, Simpsons Did It PC. You can head over to buymeacoffee.com/The Simpsons Did It. And like always, we thank you for all the support and donations you guys have given us. We want to keep coming out with more products, doing more things in the future. We're hoping to do like a trivia night for Simpsons and, keep everyone involved. And Andy, do you have anything you like to plug or just promote in general?
Well, if you want to send your angry comments as to all the dumb things that I got wrong on this, you can always contact me at EdumacationAndy on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Andy, for coming on again, and we will await the next Treehouse of Horror for more fun-filled activities.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. So until next time, I'm Steven Skolansky.
I'm Robert Skolansky.
And this has been The Simpsons Did It.
Shh.